Gobsmacked that the Labour Party are opposing this.
Split call, Moana Mackie.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, Nikki Kay might be gobsmacked that we're opposing this, but if she had actually listened to the speeches by my colleagues, she would understand why this bill will not do any of the things that she has just outlined. In fact, the Labour Party put together a very good housing policy which will make a difference, which will build 100,000 houses. It is a very comprehensive policy, That's the kind of thing we need to see out of a government that's taking affordable housing seriously, not gutting the Resource Management Act and taking protections away from trees and putting in place timeframes. And we're going to be looking at that 6-monthly timeframe very carefully at Select Committee. I remember when the Honourable Dr Nick Smith was in opposition, he put forward a member's bill to put time restrictions on Resource Management Act consents. Local government was horribly opposed to it because often there are many good reasons why they can't do a consent within a prescribed time period. But what we're seeing in this bill overall, and this is why Labor is opposing it, is a power grab. Again, that's what we saw in recent weeks with the local government legislation, and that's what we're seeing here today. This is more taking away power from the grassroots in New Zealand. We're going to have more decisions made not from the grassroots up, but from the beehive down. And that's the modus operandi of this national government. Because I don't know why the National Party doesn't trust local government. They are democratically elected. And yet what we've seen consistently from this national government since they were elected, moves to take away the right for people in Canterbury to elect their own regional council. And when the Honourable Dr Nick Smith, who was a minister at the time, was asked why he thought that was appropriate, and the people in Canterbury still aren't allowed to elect their regional council, he said because he was worried about the outcome of the election. Well, that's called democracy. Unfortunately, democracy means that the people's will is going to determine the decisions that are going to be made in future. And governments have to roll with the punches and live with that. It's simply unbelievable that a minister of local government would say, well, I'm going to take away the right for people to elect their regional council because I don't like the decisions that that democratically elected regional council have been making on a decision as important as water allocation in the Canterbury Plains. So then we've had the Local Government Act, which again strips away power from local authorities, basically tells them you're in charge of roads, rates, rubbish, nothing else. Now, anyone who's had anything to do with local government knows that's simply not the case. Local government is a crucial partner with central government in the future economic development, environmental wellbeing, social wellbeing and cultural wellbeing. But National have taken those wellbeings out and said to local government, we're going to put you in a position where legally now you could be very easily challenged. Because whereas before it was clear that that was your mandate, I look at the Ashburton Council, which put together health services for the people of Rakaia because there were none there. Without local government, those people would not have access to health services. That fell under the mandate of the 4 wellbeings. Well, that's gone now. That could be legally challenged. So how is all this about reducing costs to local government when all we're doing is increasing uncertainty, which by its very nature will result in legal challenges and will increase costs to local government and to ratepayers? And lo and behold, here we come to the first resource management reform bill, one of 2 that we've been expecting. And again, the changes made under the guise of reducing costs and streamlining are not about reducing costs and streamlining. They're about limiting public consultation, limiting community involvement in the decisions that affect them directly, and giving more power to central government and in particular to the minister, because the minister, I couldn't believe it. The Honourable Minister basically said, this is because I want a team parent unit in Nelson. This is why we're having to gut the RMA, is because I want a team parent unit in Nelson. We've got a great one in Gisborne, and that happened with the RMA. There are team parent units all around the country that managed to survive the horrific RMA process. And I think it's extraordinary that that was a reason given by the Minister. Finally, I do want to come to the issue of trees in Auckland. Now, I don't pretend to understand the depth of feeling surrounding trees in Auckland. I guess it's kind of like the Gisborne to Napier rail line, but I do appreciate the comments made by my colleague Phil Twyford about what this might mean on an issue that is very serious for Auckland residents. We had another big bust-up about it back in 2009 when they made RMA changes then as well. And Again, you've got the Honourable Dr Nick Smith, as my colleague Phil Twyford pointed out, who seems to be saying you don't need a lot of trees, you could just have one and look at it a lot of times. And that seems to be the approach being taken here. And I want to congratulate the work that was done by my former colleague Lynn Pillay and the work she did with the Waitakere Rangers protection legislation. I would hate to see that good work by Lynn Pillay undermined by the provisions in this bill.
Denise Roche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going